This is the Module 8 test review. This is page 224. The idea here is that you try all these problems to the best of your ability and then play the video when you either need a hint or when you're ready to check your answer. Assessment readiness, number 1. Selected response. Number 1 reads, what percent does this shaded grid represent? Simply what I do here is I know that percent means out of 100. And this is a 10 by 10 grid, which means there's 100 squares. So simply put how many shades or what the percent will be. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40. 42 are shaded. 42 out of 100 would be a 42%. Let's move on. Number 2 reads, which expression is not equal to, I'm going to go ahead and do number 2 and number 3 in the same screen. Number 2, which expression is not equal to 1/4 of 52? So 1/4 of 52 would look like this, 1/4 of 52. And so which of those is the same as 1/4 of 52? I know that 1/4 is the same as 25 hundredths, and I know that of means times, so A should work. So I'm going to put a little check mark there as A is okay. We're looking for what's not equal to 1/4 of 52. So I think A is equal. B is 4%. Is 1/4 equal to 4%? I don't think it is. So I have my suspicions about B. Question C says 52 divided by 4. Well, what is 1/4 of 52? It means you'd need to take 52 and find 1/4 of it. That's the same thing as dividing by 4. And D shows 52 over 4, which is again the same thing as dividing by 4. While this one is a little bit tricky, the answer is B. 4% of 52 is not the same thing. All the rest are the same. Question 3 reads, approximately 4/5 of U.S. homeowners have a cell phone. What percent of homeowners do not have a cell phone? So I'm going to go ahead and think about this as a benchmark. 4/5 is equal to 80%. I want you to be really careful not to mark question or letter D here, because if you read carefully, it says 4/5 of the homeowners have a cell phone. So this is have. Well, if 4/5 have a cell phone, what percent do not have a cell phone? That would be 20%. If you get D as your answer, that's incorrect because you're not reading. You did the math correctly, but you didn't read carefully. We were looking for the percent of people who do not have a cell phone. Moving on, question number 4. 4 reads, the ratio of rock music to total CDs that Ella owns is 25 to 40. So we're going to write 25 over 40, and 25 is the number of rock CDs, and 40 is the total. It says Paolo has 50 rock music CDs. The ratio of rock music to total CDs in his collection is equivalent to the ratio of rock music to total CDs in Ella's collection. How many CDs do they own? Well, let's go ahead and write it this way. Equivalent means equal to, and it says that Paolo has 50 rock music CDs. So that's going to be the top term. And so what we don't know is how many total he has, but what we can do is figure that out pretty easily because the directions state that Ella's and Paolo's collections are equivalent. So what I can do here is I can simply double. 25 times 2, I would get 50. So I'm going to double down here. 40 times 2 would be 80. And then the next question says, how many CDs do they own? Well, in order to figure out how many they own, we need to add up the total. How many does Ella own? She owns 40. How many does Paolo own? He owns 80. You need to combine those. 40 and 80 is 120. The answer is C. So this was definitely multi-step. The first step was to read the question carefully and set up a proportion. And then you needed to decipher what were the totals, and you needed to find the sum of those. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to go back up to the top of the page here. And we are on number 5. I think I can do 5 and 6 in the same screen here. Number 5 reads, Gabriel saves 40% of his monthly paycheck for college. He earned $270 last month. How much money did Gabriel save for college? So we think about this as a part and as a whole. How much did he save last month? We don't know. But how much did he make? 270. And that's going to be equal to 40%, and that means 40 100ths. And so this might look kind of complicated. What you need to do here is you need to think about, can I take 270 and make it into 100, either by multiplying or dividing? And I'm going to show you how I would do this. I would simplify 40 and 10 because that's really easy. If you divide 40 and 10 each by 10, 40 divided by 10 is 4, and 100 divided by 10 is 10. So I just take a line and I cross those off. And now if I think about it going this way, how would I get from 10 to 270? I would multiply by 27. 10 times 27 is 270. So if you multiply 4 times 27, you're going to get your unknown. So I'm simply going to go here and do 27 times 4. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. It's 108, which is selection B. Gabriel saved $108 for college last month. Question number 6. 40 children from an after-school club went to the matinee. This is 25% of the children in the club. How many children are in the club? I'm going to go ahead and erase from what I did before and do my work right here. And it says 25%. And 25% means 25 hundredths, so I can just set that up as a proportion. And then I feel like I may have misread this the first time. It says 40 children. So here's the deal. Where does 40 go? It either needs to be the part or the whole. Well, I believe it's going to be the part because it asks how many children are in the club. That means we don't know how many children are in the club, but we do know that 40 kids were equal to 25%. So that's our part, and then the total we don't know. Part to whole, we don't know the whole. So now, I mean, you may be stuck just for a minute. You may think to yourself, well, 25 doesn't multiply into 40. So whenever you're stuck here, you can simplify. And there's really all sorts of ways to do this. You could simply just divide by 5. That's a pretty good way to do this. If you divide by 5, 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. And why does that help? Well, if I reset up my proportion now, I have 5 over 20 is equal to 40 over unknown. And now mathematically I can solve. By multiplying 5 by 8, I get 40. So you multiply 20 by 8. That's the same thing as 2 times 8, which is 16, and then annex your 0. So the answer is 160. All right, let's go ahead and move down this page. We're on number 7 and 8. Number 7, I think I'm going to have to just do 7 here, and then I'll have to move down the page one more time. Number 7 says, Dominic answered 43 of the 50 questions on a spelling test correctly. Which decimal represents the fraction of problems he answered incorrectly? Really, this should probably be a percent problem. We're going to solve it the same way we would solve a problem. The teacher at the top of Dominic's page would have written it as 43 out of 50. And what we've taught you all year was percent means out of 100, so we're simply going to double, multiply by 2, and you would get 86 over 100, which is 86%. And the only trick here is then we have to write this as a decimal. Well, 8600 simply means an 86 in the hundredths place, which is the same thing as 0.86. The answer is C. All right, the mini task. Let's go ahead and check out question number 8. This is really just a reading problem. The math isn't too hard. 8 reads, Jen bought some sesame bagels and some plain bagels. The ratio of the number of sesame bagels to the number of plain bagels is 1 to 3. I'm going to put an S here for sesame and a P here for plain. There's 1 sesame for every 3 plains. Question A says, what fraction of the bagels are plain? Well, you got to recognize that fractions are something out of a whole. And how many are plain? 3 out of 4. If you wonder where I'm getting the 3, it's right here. 3 plain bagels, that says in the directions. And then where's the 4? Well, fractions are written as a part out of a whole. And the whole is when you add up the 1 sesame to the 3 plains, you end up with 4 bagels. So the whole set would be 3 out of 4. Question B says, what percent of the bagels are plain? Well, if the fraction is 3/4, we can simply use our benchmarks. 3/4 is equal to 75%. 75% of the bagels are plain. Last question says, if Jill bought 2 dozen bagels, how many of each type of bagel did she buy? So one easy way to do this would be to say, well, 2 dozen is equal to 12 times 2, which is 24. So she bought 24 bagels. And the simple way to do this is to say 25% of those are going to be sesame. So 25% of 24 And that's pretty simple because 25% is a benchmark. That's just 1/4. What is a fourth of 24? Fourth of 24 means take 24 and divide it into 4 equal groups. Fourth of 24 is 6. So she has 6 sesame bagels. And I know that this is an incomplete answer, but what I'm going to do, I've shown all my work. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase it to make a little bit of space. Well, I don't need to erase it. I'll just squeeze it in. So if 6 of the bagels are sesame, then that means that the rest have to be plain, and that was 75%. That's 3/4. 3/4 of 24 would be 6 times 3, which is 18. So it's 6 sesame bagels, and it's 18 plain bagels. All right. Watch this video a couple times, and along with the video for page 223, and you should be well prepared for the Module 8 test. Good job.